I've been trying to leave Rome for several weeks, but all the roads have this one design flaw. Hello and welcome to Assorted Meeples. I'm Philip, the Meeple on duty, and today, as you can tell from the title of this video, we're going to be talking about what if the worst happened? What if you lost all your games? Now, as we talk, I'm going to have my board game scrolling across the screen here of what I would be losing in case of a flood or a fire or children on a rampage or anything of that nature. And this question came up from Alex at Board Game Co. And it really hit me. And it was, what games would you replace if you lost all your games? Now, I don't have the same problem that a lot of people do, but I also have a limited space, and I'm not trying to take over my house with games, because my wife isn't that into games, and I don't want games all over my house. And I agree that having a manageable collection of games that actually get played versus having all the games is a good idea. Yeah, what would I replace? And I kind of boiled it down to two waves. Like, I would get my initial wave, so I just had games to play that are going to get played and that are really fun. And then I'd have a second wave that are more specified and specific to what we actually play and what we want to play, or what I actually want on my shelf. A couple of honorable mentions here. I'm not going to be pulling out the boxes, but I will get... I'll have at least the name up here, and there will be links down in the description of where you can go get these games. One of the games, actually, two of the games that I would go and get would be a couple of kids' games. The first one being, I'm looking off screen right here. They're down just off screen. I would go get Cobra Paw. It is a game very much reminiscent of Spoons, but you have dice with symbols and dominoes with matching symbols. You roll the dice, and you try and be the first one to pick it up before anybody else can. And these can be dominoes in front of other players as well. So it is very much a protect what you've gathered and keep grabbing. The rulebook is what really makes it, because they go full immersion in the rulebook, and it is absolutely fabulous. Second backup that I would do would be Ghost Fight and Treasure Hunters. It is actually a very wonderful game, even if it's aimed at kids. It's a very hard strategy to get in and get out without all the hauntings happening and getting all the gems. Another one would be the two-player game of both Spirit of the Wild and Voltage. Very simple, very low component, but very high quality components, where it's a push and pull of how you win the game. And Voltage is newer in my collection, and Spirit of the Wild, good luck finding a copy. So those are my honorable mentions. Ghost Fight and Treasure Hunters, Voltage, and Spirit of the Wild. All three of those are Mattel games, which threw me for a loop because I don't think of Mattel when I think of board games. But they had like this tight little cluster where they released a lot of really good games that I don't think sold amazingly well for them. In my first wave, now the initial wave is going to look like Catan, Carcassonne, King of Tokyo, Splendor, Railroad Inc., and I forgot one, which would be Ticket to Ride as well. Now, I know a lot of these are classic games, but they're the right fit for me and my table. and that's what I love about them. Catan, yes, it's old. Yes, there's a lot of better games out there than it, but it has a lot of strategy. It has a lot of dice mitigation that people don't realize. Like, your initial setup is huge, and yeah, when you're playing on a full board, that's really hard, but it's how you get to those other numbers that really makes the difference. And if you're not familiar, Catan is a resource-driven game where numbers are down on 5 different types of resources. When that number is rolled, everybody on those numbers collects it. On your turn, you're building roads and settlements and cities and buying development cards to get to 10 points. First to 10 wins the game. Next one would be Carcassonne. This is a newer one to me, although it's not a new game per se. But it's very low input for very gratifying point scoring. I don't know how to say that. It's a tile laying game where you are matching up either roads, fields, or cities, all connecting together to score you points towards the end of the game. You have 7 workers you can put out. You can't pick up workers until you're wherever you put them down on, whether it's a monastery, a city, a road, or a field. Fields you don't get back ever. But the first 3, once you complete the objectives, like the city is fully walled in or the road is enclosed with markets or whatever, then you get them back. But until then, so you have a limited worker placement tile laying game. Absolute fun. Me and Heather love being able to talk over it while still focusing on the game. King of Tokyo is, the undisputed champion of take that and dice chucking. There are multiple ways to win via points or murdering everybody else and being the last monster standing. I love the game because, yes, you're just chucking dice, but there is some good strategy involved if you're playing it right. And, there's a lot of cards. You could probably thin out the cards till there's only 20 or so and probably still have a really amazing game. Splendor is another one that newer to me, not newer on the market. It creates a lot of depth in between gameplays with just what flips up at what time and how they come out and what nobles come out. Another great one that has quite a depth of strategy once you pick up how to play the game. And then you can still have a conversation while you're playing. This one's a little harder because you do need to be thinking like 3 or 4 steps in advance of what you're doing in order to play well. Next up is Railroad Inc. Railroad Inc. is probably one of the newest, especially the newest on this first wave list. It is a roll and write. It is Heather's favorite game. You have 4 dice, you're rolling them, and then you're on your board, you're marking them down, writing down those routes. Well, you have highways and you have train tracks, and you are connecting different cities via rails and trains, and the bigger the grouping you get of those cities connected by one route, interconnected route, the more points you get, and you get points for longest road and other scoring objectives as well. Fabulous game. I've played I've played the ink out of the first set of markers, if that tells you how many times we've played it. Takes up very little space. The dice change up how you play and how you place, and I like that. I typically score somewhere in the 50s, but I have been down to 30, and I've been all the way up into the 60s at this point. So, absolutely fabulous game to play. And then Ticket to Ride, specifically the Europe map is my favorite that I've played so far. Not that I've played a lot of them, and from everything I've heard, the Europe map is the way you go. I wouldn't even argue with the kids' version of either the USA or Europe maps. But the Ticket to Ride, you are collecting sets of cards to the correct color code to lay down on the map to connect the routes that give you points, and you also get points for laying down routes. Fabulous game. There's about 50 million of them because Asmodee ruined Days of Wonder by just making them just pump out game after game after game, expansion after expansion. Sadly, but that's how it is. And a lot of them all the variations are actually pretty good. I'd have to play a lot of games to figure out which is the best. But I do know Europe is one of the best. The American one is great too, but there's some cutoffs and there's some new dynamics that you get into with Ticketroid Europe. Now, going on to my second wave of games that I would pick up. These would be Camel Up, Marvel United, Everdell, Project L, Dice Throne, and Super Fantasy Brawl. Now, Camel Up is just ridiculous fun. You are betting on a camel race, and there is a pyramid that poops out the dice, and my kids think it's the funniest thing in the world. They haven't quite got the betting mechanisms yet, but they understand it and they're getting there. I really like it because while you're betting on each round, there's a bet going on overall, and it's because of the chaos of the dice that come out, it creates this very fun, ridiculous game where you are moving. We just played it the other night, and the one that you swore would have won, and the wound up like second to last, and the one that you thought would come in dead last was the final winner, just because of how the dice rolled out. Turned out fabulous. Marvel United is in there because it is honestly a really solid co-op game of heroes taking down a villain. It's very simple, very easy to understand, but with the limited card pool you have and everything going on, it gets very challenging very fast. I'll try and put a link to me and Heather's play of it down below. I would start small. I would just try and find the core boxes, and then as we played more, I do like collecting it. I love the minis. I love the artwork. I actually like the Marvel IP. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I like the Marvel IP. Be curious to know what they could do with like a generic quest-based system. I don't know how they would do it, but I think it would be really fun as well. Next up would be Everdell. Everdell is a tableau building, engine building of just gorgeous artwork by Andrew Bosley. The base game itself is a very solid game. You're chaining together different critters and different buildings and you're laying them down you can have up to 15 cards down in your city, and all those do different things, and you're doing it across 3 turns. What I really love about it is you can extend your turn as long as you possibly can, as long as you have Meeples to do it, and then you rest and go back into the next season. Well, if you play right and the right cards come up, you can wind up with one person already in fall and somebody still ending up in spring, like depending on how things happen. And you do want to try and extend your turn out as long as you can, or each season out as long as you can. Project L is probably Heather's second favorite game in my collection. And it is Tetris puzzle solving at its best. You're going to get puzzles when you complete, and you're going to put pieces into those puzzles to fill in all the spaces. Once you complete it, you're going to get either points and a piece, or just a piece, and you're going to save those for the end of the game. High score wins, but as you get more pieces, the bigger pieces fill in more space. Fabulous game system, although it feels a little short because right about the time you get your engine running, the game is basically wrapping up, and it's not as satisfying. Though, once you learn how to work the master play, where you can put out a piece in each puzzle, that gets really ridiculous really fast, and it's really fun. Dice Throne is upgradable heroes through card play. with Battle Yahtzee going on in the background as you attack your opponent and trying to be the last one standing. We love this game. It does not get out as much as it could. Just starting back and getting back in, I would not go all in on everything. I would make sure I first got just either the Marvel box or the Season 2 box, because I think those are the heroes I started with, and then the Marvel, Heather likes the characters in there, which I do too. Super Fantasy Brawl is the last one I'm going to mention, but I absolutely adore this game. You're creating teams of 3 heroes that each have 6 cards on each turn. You can play 3. You're going to draw 5 cards, play 3 cards, and then discard the other 2. And they're color coded with yellow, red, and green, or yellow, red, and blue cores. Absolute fabulous game. Heather doesn't like playing it because of the character design. It's just outstanding, in my opinion, of what you can do in that game, even with just the 24 characters it has. Simon purchased it, and I'm looking forward to what they do with it, if they do anything with it, or when they do something with it. Hit me up in the comments down below with what games you would replace in your board game collection if you lost them all. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you next time. All right. Bye.
If you like what you just saw, please support us by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more great gaming content.